Welcome to the Spunky Spirit Podcast. I'm your host, psychic medium Carrie Muggs. This is where we learn all things spirit, everything from spiritual gifts, awakenings, ghosts, aliens, and starseeds. Nothing is untouchable, but always fun and spunky. I am honored to be on this spiritual journey with you, so make sure you hit the subscribe button so you never miss an episode. Hello, and welcome to this episode of the Spunky Spirit episode of, Spunky Spirit. I am psychic medium Carrie Muggs, and today we're going to talk about psychics and forensics. So this would be where psychics, forensics, police departments, they call psychics in, or psychics are used, or psychics use their ability for forensics. There's a lot of amazing forensic psychics out there. I choose not to do this, and I'll tell you, and this episode is to kind of tell you why. It is an amazing thing that psychics can tap into forensics, and help the families of missing people or murders or things like that. And honestly, my dad was such a forensic person. He loved criminal stuff. I love criminal stuff. I have a daughter who loves criminal stuff. I grew up reading, my dad would always watch the criminal investigation, true crime stuff. My dad loved it. I love it too. I love it so much that I have to be super careful about it because I can go down the rabbit hole with it. And so I had to, and I loved Criminal Minds for a while until it started involving kids and it got pretty dark. I can't handle a lot of the dark stuff. But that being said, I do love listening to Bailey Sarian sometimes when she does her makeup and the Criminal Minds stuff. But I have to be honest, when it comes to forensic and psychic stuff, I do not love it. And here's why. I had an experience at one time. I was doing a reading for somebody and I did not know I was doing a forensic reading. It was just a regular reading. She called in and I said, well, what's going on the 5th? What happened on the 5th of a certain month? I don't want to give too many details out because I don't want this to, but anyways, and she said, that's when my son was missing. So I didn't know if he ran away, if he got kidnapped. I didn't, and automatically I got super nervous because I don't do forensics because psychics see signs and symbols. So what if we're seeing the wrong signs and symbols, or what if we're not seeing the right thing? I give this example all the time from Criminal Minds. There's this episode where the psychic says, they're trying to find a little boy, and the psychic says, he sees a beach every day. And the facts and the evidence led to an apartment building in the city. And so they came right down to the wire, and of course this is Hollywood and drama, but they came right down to the wire, and they said, do we go to this beach or do we go to this apartment? Well, they followed the facts and they followed the evidence, and it went to the apartment. Now, the little boy was in the apartment, but when they opened the window that the little boy looked out every day, there was a mural of a beach. So we can see things, but we don't know exactly what we're seeing because signs and symbols, and that's where we kind of play charades and put these stories together. And when I do readings, my sitter can validate that. They could say yes or no, or yes or no. Forensics, they can't say yes or no. And so it kind of makes me a little nervous. So anyways, I was doing this reading, and I did not feel this boy that had either went missing or ran away. And this was like when I first started. So I didn't know that sometimes, there's just reasons why Spirit doesn't tell us certain things sometimes. And I don't know why. That's the one question that I always have. Why did someone pass? Or why don't they answer these questions? And sometimes there's just some things that we're not supposed to know yet, or they're not telling us for some amount of reason, and we don't know why. And when we get to the other side, we will. But I proceeded with the reading. I had felt another male presence, and there was a brother there, and we had determined that it was the brother and not this son. And I still did not feel the son, but I said, you will probably see him again in February. And then I named the state that they would see him in. And I said, he's in a forest that's by a river. Well, of course, that's what I got. And I didn't ever feel the boy spirit. And so I feel like I feel like I gave this mother false hope. So February came around and they did find the boy, and he was on a street, not a forest. He was in a street, but the street that they found him on was called Forest River Street, and they did find him in the month that I said he would, and they did find him in the state I said he would. But if that would have been a forensic reading, I would have had these people looking in a forest by a river, and it to this day terrifies me. And so, you know what? It's just not something I want to do right now. It may be in the future or maybe later, but not at this point. It's not that I don't have the confidence. I just don't have, I don't want to be responsible for that. Doing readings, just visiting past loved ones and letting you know that they're with them, there's a huge amount of responsibility with that. And I don't want to add the forensic part on it because I'm too, it's not that I care what people think. I just love my children. And I could never, I just don't want to lead anybody ever astray about their own children. And I would never, as a parent, want a psychic to tell me false information and me to hang on to that. Because even just doing the readings that I do, people get bits and pieces of the readings and they hold on to what they want to. They hear what they want to. And so sometimes I even have to say at the readings now, I have to say, do not make any major decisions based on this reading. And if you do, just know that you are going to face those consequences. They're your responsibility, not mine. And it's because people will hold on to certain things or hear it differently than it comes across. And you have to remember that there is no ever any reading by any psychic that is 100% accurate. And if they tell you that they are, then you need to find a different psychic. I totally 100% agree that there's no, I mean, there's good readings and we have, sometimes you struggle with the readings, but there's no 100% accuracy in readings. And so that's why I don't do forensic. Now, here's the thing. The reason why I'm telling you this is because when the Lori Vallow thing happened it was in our state, like in our area, I had no desire to go down that road. I had no desire to tap into it psychically because here's the thing. I knew the kids were gone. I just knew it. I didn't see the kids. It was a psychic. It was a claircognizance thing. And I just knew the kids were gone. And I didn't want to give my 2 cents to stuff that was already just so messed up in those forums. And another thing that kind of I have a hard time with, and to each his own, but when psychics get on like TikTok or platforms and when they talk about it, when they like say, this is my prediction or this is what I see, that's hard for me just because it can mess things up. It can so mess things up. So, and you know what? There's also stuff about respect of people's privacy and asking permission to tap into stuff like that. And so that's why I struggle with that and I don't do that. Ever. I don't put it on my platform. Now, if I ever want to tap into it on my own and write down the things that I wrote down and then maybe show a family member and then say, okay, when it comes to fruition, I say, okay, this is what I saw, then I can do that. But that's not messing with anybody's stuff. That's not messing with anybody's investigation or anything like that. But the reason, again, why I bring this up is because I had no intentions or no desire to go down in the Lori Vallow case, or I knew the kids were gone and it was heartbreaking to me and I didn't want to see how, and I didn't want to see the why, and I didn't want to go down that road. But this week, this last month, there has been a case that I have been totally going down the rabbit hole and it has kind of consumed me a little bit. and it's the four students in college one. And here's why I think I'm the four students at University of Idaho that were stabbed. This is why I feel like I'm kind of I feel like I'm not involved at all, but I feel like I am not connected. What am I trying to say? I'm interested. I'm interested and I'm following it constantly. And again, I'm in some of the forums and I read some of the comments and I'm like, you guys, seriously. In fact, I couldn't probably even do a psychic evaluation on this because I already am too deep into it. Because you don't want to know anything when you're doing a psychic evaluation on a murder or a crime scene. You can't know all the things. And because I know all the things, there's no way I could ever do an evaluation or tap into this unless I completely let go of it for at least a couple weeks. The reason why I think I'm so into this though is because I did go to University of Idaho. And I was an Alpha Phi, which is one of the girls, Kaylee, was an Alpha Phi. And it breaks my heart. It breaks my heart. I just remember being in that town. I loved Moscow, Idaho. I was still very much a drinker when I was going there to kind of shut off all the noise, all the stuff. But it was a good experience. It was a fun experience. It was an important experience in my life. And I think the reason why I feel so connected to it is because of that. So I have been kind of looking at the different forums and kind of trying to tap into it psychically, but I can't because I'm so close to it now. And you guys, it's crazy. Like all the TikTok stuff, there's so many people and so many psychics that are claiming to see, which is fine because some of them are right and some of them are good, but some of them are so off the mark, and it just makes people like focus on one person. So like let's say there's a psychic on TikTok that says this is the person that did it. Then everybody it raises that energy and everybody goes after this person. Everybody, and even though nothing has been proven or nothing is known, and I really feel like this is where profilers are so important. I believe a lot of profilers or a lot of psychics are psychic. Like I have a daughter who would love to be a profiler, and she was thinking about going to school to be a profiler, go into the counseling and go into that stuff to be profiled. And she is psychic. And so I do believe in it. I do. But I feel like it's just like spiritual awakenings and mental illness. There's a fine line. You guys, there's a fine line, and you just don't want to step over those boundaries. And it's not because I'm not confident in my abilities. It's not because I'm scared of what people think. It's because it's to be respectful to those who have passed over. They're even in this thing, and even in some of these forums, there was another girl that had passed away and took her own life in February, and they're trying to connect these two things. The father had to get on and say, you guys, leave us alone, give us our privacy. It can be pulled way too far. So you can listen to psychics, you can follow the stuff, but really be responsible. I don't even know why I'm telling you this. I'm explaining. I think I'm explaining why, because you haven't done anything wrong. It's not like, but if you do get pulled down this forensic kind of psychic stuff, it's really hard. And I do have a couple students right now that they do go into some forensic stuff, and I might even hold a spirit circle at one time where we try and tap into a cold case file. But as long as we, there'll be rules and stipulations and no, and any of the information that comes through doesn't leave the room. You just have to be really careful about respecting other people's privacy and their energy. And so that's kind of my thing. I love psychics. Forensics, psychics who do forensics. I even have a couple of friends that teach forensics, but I also have a couple of students that have said, I had this dream, or I just know where this is, and do I tell the parents? And part of me is saying, it's hard because, that information might help the investigation, but it also very much might hinder it. So would you go, if you want to share your information that you got about this, or if you want to call a tip line, you have to be, or you want to talk to the parents, you have to let them know that, it's not quite sure, you could be off, or it's not 100% a done deal. And that's my thing about forensics. And have there been crimes solved with psychics? Yes, there have been. And those are amazing. And there have been crimes that have been solved without psychics. And police do use psychics. And I think that that's awesome. But I think that the police know that, if they've dealt with psychics, they know. They know that you only see signs and symbols, and they know that sometimes it's not completely accurate. Like sometimes you could just see a shed in a tree. And you don't, and they could all be like, well, let's look for that shed in that tree because the body's going to be there. And it could take you off course where maybe the actual murder or the actual passing happened in the shed in the tree, and then the body was moved. Still, it's just such a touchy situation. So I love to dig into the psychicness and the forensic part of it, but I won't ever probably participate in something like that or have something be dependent on my psychic awareness, because it's kind of the same thing as remote viewing, right? And lots of people can do remote viewing. And we've talked about this where the government has lots of people who they train to remote view. Even if you're not psychic, they can train you to do remote viewing. So what's the difference? If you can remote view, then you can see some of the forensic stuff. The difference is you don't know if you're accurate. Sometimes you don't know if you're accurate, and you don't have anybody there to verify if you're accurate. So practice to amongst yourselves, or practice your own kind of thing. But as long as you don't ruin other people's lives, that's my whole thing. And you can listen to people on TikTok or, about all this stuff, but just know that you can make up your own decisions and follow your own gut instincts. So I hope that helps with the forensic psychicness. I find it very, very interesting. I do love it, but it's something that you need to be super careful about if you decide to practice it, or if you decide to have a psychic involved in your own criminal investigation, or if you are following psychics who claim to know what happened in this scenario. So I hope you guys, I hope that this murder thing is resolved soon. It's such a heartbreaking thing for me. I feel so bad for these parents and these kids, and it's just such a hard thing. And that's the thing with death is hard anyways, and when you add this trauma to it, it just makes it that much harder, and it makes it that much more traumatic, and it does make it that much harder to read, especially if you're close to it. So I love you guys. I mean it. Remember, you have everything you absolutely need already inside of you, and you are so magic, and don't forget that. If you liked this episode, please